Welcome back. The central government today received a bit of a setback from the Supreme Court. The apex court has held that the third extension of the ED director is illegal and invalid. And therefore, the court has said that Sanjay Mishra's tenure has to end on July 31st, which is about 3 weeks from now. Otherwise, he would have retired in November. The Supreme Court further cornered the centre, saying, and I quote, "Is there no other competent person in the agency? And how has one person become so indispensable?" Unquote. Now, let me take a step back to November 2021, when the centre brought in an ordinance to amend the CVC Act, or the Central Vigilance Commission Act. After it was passed in the Parliament, the Act gave the centre the power to extend the tenure of ED and CBI chiefs for 1 year at a time till a maximum period of 5 years. Soon after, a flurry of petitions filed by the Congress, TMC and CPIM leaders challenged this amendment to the CVC Act and the extension of Sanjay Mishra's tenure. Cut to today, where the top court made it clear that the third extension to Sanjay Mishra's tenure is illegal. However, interestingly, the court upheld the amendments made to the CVC Act, saying that there are sufficient safeguards that are in place to prevent any misuse of the Act. Let me go straight across to Nikunj, who is joining us on the broadcast. Nikunj, how do you read what has happened in the Supreme Court today? We are saying it's a setback. Is it a complete setback, given the fact that the Supreme Court has upheld the amendments to the CVC Act?
And also to the DSPE Act, which governs the CBI. So there are two specific acts in this case. One is Delhi Special Police Powers Act, which governs the Central Bureau of Investigation, and the Central Vigilance Commission Act, which governs the appointment of the Director of ED. So the government of India brought in an ordinance originally, then got it passed through the Parliament, which is now the law of the land. So quite clearly, for the government, if the government were to look at it, they would say that, it's a big relief for them, because eventually what is their concern? Their concern was that their will, which is the will of the Parliament now expressed through a law, has been upheld by the Supreme Court, and they have said that the amendments to the law are fine, that the scope of the judicial review is limited. However, the bone of contention became extensions given to the individual incumbent in the form of Mr. Sanjay Mishra at the Enforcement Directorate. Remember, despite the amendments, none of the CBI directors, the government has appointed at least 2 CBI directors post the amendments also, but none of them have got any extension. It's only and only Mr. Sanjay Mishra, who's the incumbent director of the Enforcement Directorate, till at least 31st of July, unless government does something else, who has got these extensions. So the law operates both for CBI and the ED. However, only the ED director has got full 5 extensions. In that sense, that the personage of Mr. Sanjay Mishra has been questioned, his extension has been questioned, this is certainly a setback for the government of India. And frankly speaking, I somehow fail to see why the government could not see it, because the court from the very beginning, in the last multiple hearings, was clearly against the extensions that were being given to Mr. Sanjay Mishra as a matter of routine by the government. So in 2021, in 2022, the extensions that were given, it was the flow of the case was appearing to be that they certainly were not in agreement. And at some point in time, if government were to have thought that this is going to go against them, they could have taken 2 steps back and said that probably those extensions need reconsideration. However, government in its wisdom thought that probably it would also pass the muster, which it did not today. And that is why this is history. This is history being made. I do not remember of any other occasion where the tenure of a chief of a central investigation agency has been curtailed by the Supreme Court of the country. Never before there have been instances where tenures of the Union Home Secretaries have been curtailed. Mr. Anil Goswami's tenure was curtailed by this government, that is NDA government, once they came to power, on some charges that were pretty opaque. However, I do not remember any time post, particularly the Vineet Narayan judgment in 1997, if my memory serves me right, when the fixed 2-year tenure was given first to the Director CBI, later moved to Director ED a few years back, that the tenure of a chief of a federal investigation agency has been curtailed by the top court of the country. So this is history being made.
So here's what I don't understand. The court is saying, simply put, the court is saying the amendments are fine. The amendments that the government has made for extensions to the tenures of the ED and CBI chief are fine, and yet it has gone ahead.
Law is fine.
Yeah, and yet it has gone ahead and curtailed the tenure of this one ED chief. So is there did they have a particular problem with Mr. Sanjay Mishra, the man on our screens, or is the court trying to make a point?
I don't think this has to do with anything with the personage of Mr. Sanjay Mishra. Mr. Sanjay Mishra's personage happens to be inflamed.
Let him continue. It's just 3 weeks before he would have left. 3 months before.
Well, they could have, but the fact is that there is a process. As I said, that if the government would have read the court's mind correctly, and if they would have assessed the flow of the case and the will of the intention of the judges of the Supreme Court, they probably would have also taken 2 steps back. However, as I said, that this is not about the personage of Mr. Sanjay Mishra. I've been saying it since morning, but the fact that extensions were given in a routine manner when the top court of the country was seized of the matter and was reviewing the entire matter in the terms of validity of the law itself. And the previous judgment of 2021, where they said that the extensions to the government servant cannot be given as a matter of routine. They say that this flies right in the in the nose of that judgment, that judicial review, which they had already earlier dictated. So that is why this has been.
My last question before I let you go. We've seen this in the case of the Delhi Ordinance as well. Do you think the government is going to keep quiet and sit on this, saying that probably this is not a battle they want to pick right now, or do you see them going to the Supreme Court and saying, no, we want this guy to continue, and this is whatever, our counter affidavit, this is our case? Do you see that happening?
Well, let me put it like this, Shreya. Most neutral and intelligent observers would say that government should not make it a case of skin off their nose. This is no skin off their nose. The law has been upheld. The larger intent of any government of democracy is that the parliament's will, which is the supreme, must prevail. And Supreme Court in its wisdom has allowed that to prevail. Parliament's will prevails, government's will prevail. So the rule of the functioning of the parliament is that the government will have its way, and government has had its way. So I don't think they should make it a case of any skin off their nose. Most neutral observers would say so. Prudence would lie there. However, if the government think that they do not like this history being made in this unkind manner, I'm sure multiple options are open to them.
In a couple of hours in any case. We'll leave it there for the moment, Nikunj. Thank you very much for joining us. Also getting some sound bites on the story. Let's quickly listen into who said what today.
Sanjay Mishra can continue as ED director, but the government has to find another ED director before 31st July. What happened in the court?
The court, exactly the judgment is same as you are saying, that they had said that the extensions granted to Sanjay Mishra in 21 and 22 are illegal. Could not have been granted in view of the mandatory directions issued by this court in the previous judgment. The government chose to give him an extension, taking the, in fact, they went under the amendments of the Act, taking refuge in the amendments. They said that we could extend him. But that amendment would not apply retrospectively to annul the judgment. That's exactly what the court has said.
Sir, court has also upheld the amendment that was done in the CVC Act, that the tenure of the ED's director can be extended to 5 years. That has been upheld. That has been upheld.
Rightly so, because that's the general principle of law. You can't prevent a master from including any conditions of service.
Yes.
But it was not person specific.
क्या मोदी जी, प्रधानमंत्री जी ये बताएंगे कि ईडी डायरेक्टर द्वारा 17 नवंबर 2021 के बाद लिए गए सारे निर्णय अवैध नहीं, गलत नहीं? तो क्या नंबर 2, तो क्या सरकार ईडी डायरेक्टर द्वारा 17 नवंबर 2021 के बाद लिए गए सब निर्णयों की समीक्षा करेगी, या फिर किसी इंडिपेंडेंट एजेंसी के द्वारा ईडी डायरेक्टर द्वारा पिछले 2 साल 17 नवंबर 2021 के बाद लिए गए निर्णयों की जांच और समीक्षा होगी?
I'm unable to understand how the opposition parties can politicize this issue and seek to make political mileage or seek to get political mileage on this. After all, the Honorable Supreme Court has upheld the amendment to the CVC Act, which means the tenure would be a longer tenure than earlier contemplated. With regarding to the incumbent, that also would have in any case, as per normal extension, ended in September. It's cut short only by some 2 or 3 months. But the court has finally upheld the amendment, which means the next incumbent will have the benefit of up to a longer tenure. So how can this be politicized to say this is a great victory?